Okay, everyone. So this video is just basically a hodgepodge. Um, I want to talk about some of the updates on fish that I recently got in. I want to talk about and basically just get some footage of how they're looking. So on the unboxing video, this one came in alive, but you can't really see what they look like. Um, so I was able to get some workable footage of the shrimp and the dwarf chain loaches. I also got my culture of new Grindal worms in, and that's a new live food um, variation for me. I have never tried or fed Grindal worms before. But the culture came in great, and I was able to split that into 3 starter colonies I'm hoping for. So I got some footage on how I set those up and what that's looked like. And yeah, so for breakfast, before we get started and all of that, I just wanted to share we got a mixture of some frozen foods here for the big fish that we were just looking at, and that's some micey shrimp, brine shrimp, and a touch of bloodworms, not too many. And then in this one is the baby brine shrimp and daphnia for all the little tetras and stuff like that. So let me get some food in the big tank and we can watch that real quick before we get into the rest of the video. Okay, we'll see. I think you can get a pretty good idea for what feeding time is like around here. Sometimes I just like to be quiet and watch the fish. I certainly appreciate everyone who tunes in to watch this video, and let's get on with the rest of the content. Okay, I just wanted to try to get a close-up, or more close-up, shot of the new chain loaches that I got in. I'll get the exact amount of time that they've been in another clip of the video. I want to say it's been a little around a week, I would say. And this morning we're just giving them a breakfast of frozen baby brine shrimp that I hatched a day or 2 ago. And then just whatever I can't feed that's live, I freeze for later. And they seem to, devour it well enough. I have not lost, again, knock on wood, but I have not had any issues with health since the one that arrived dead on arrival, unfortunately. The other 7 have continued to just thrive in this little hospital tank. I had a little rock pile set up for them. This sponge here is just the seed sponge that I used for their hospital tank to get the cycle going, and then I never took it out. They seem to like playing with it, so I just, leave it in there. Why not? And then I was too lazy to put gravel on the whole tank, which I usually am. But I like to give them just at least an option to be on some gravel, so I just threw in a handful of the gravel, and it's funny to me, they definitely have a preference for either being in the rock pile or on the gravel. And I rarely catch them over on this side. You'll see I did an experiment to put some, those look like maybe some ram's horn snails. Here, let me focus it. So some ram's horn snails in there to see what they would do. I mean, so far at least they have peacefully coexisted with their snail tank mates, which I was hoping for some more carnage. But maybe they'll grow into it. I'm just, in all honesty, pleased that they're continuing to be healthy, and I'm glad I'm able to get a little bit of footage for you all of them in the hospital tank this morning for a little bit of a breakfast feeding. I think they're looking at probably another at least 2 weeks in here before I look at moving them into their more permanent 20-gallon home. Till then, we'll just keep giving them the cush life here in the hospital tank with frequent water changes and a good mixed diet. So far I've really been enjoying watching their antics. They love to swim around in groups, and they like to play with each other, it seems like, and chase each other around. And so I would really recommend, if you're looking for a small loach that's really active, these guys fit the bill. That's just some footage of the new chain loaches, and really can't say enough good things about aquahuna and how these guys came in. If you've been like me and kind of been waiting around and not knowing if it's worth it, I would say that it's well worth it. And then my hope is that I've got these guys on wait lists at a couple of my local fish stores, so that they'll take kind of like a wish list. You can put down fish that you're looking for. So if I were to come into my local fish store and run into some more dwarf chain loaches, I could always add to the 7 that I have here. So, all right, we'll move on to the new shrimp in a different tank. Well, I was a little worried that these guys would be harder to film, but thankfully they seem to be out and about. So this is the tank where I put the new orange neocaradinas, along with their, whatever you want to call them, Pinocchio shrimp, Rudolph shrimp. I'll have the scientific name in the description of the video, since I don't want to butcher it. But the clear ones there are the Pinocchio shrimp, for anybody unfamiliar. And I haven't seen them, struggle to adjust. All of them came in healthy. Now I know this is still, right around a week it's not a lot of time, sample size wise. These Pinocchio shrimp, I've heard, can live in fresh water, and then I've heard, they can only live in fresh water if you do RO and remineralize, kind of in the way that you would do your typical caradina shrimp. And then I've also heard that if you get them from a reputable source, that you can take your time acclimating them and they will do just fine in freshwater. I've even read a lot of times in the wild they can be found in freshwater streams and things like that. I've also got one of the other ones up here on some of the bulbitis. Can't really get a great shot of him, but that's his tail at least. So the Pinocchio shrimp, besides just being a cool shrimp that I really wanted to try, they're the only other Caridina shrimp I have right now besides Amanos. And Amanos don't really count to me as like one of the typical Caridina shrimp that people struggle to keep because they're so adaptable to water parameters. But eventually I would like to get into maybe some of the more hardy strains of Caridina that can be adapted to Neo-Caridina water parameters. I've been reading that there's quite a few of those. Moving over to the orange here, I kind of had said this in my first video, but I could not be happier. I mean, they're almost like glowing. Look at this one over here. I could not be happier with the quality of orange shrimp. There's a little bit of a glare, sorry, that came in from aquahuna on these guys. And then on top of that, one of them must have been with eggs because I already have baby orange shrimp that I've seen the last couple days that have been floating around in here. So I've really been enjoying them because when you do see them, they stick out like highlighters. And so when they really start to take off, there's another one for you. When they really start to take off, and there's a lot of them, I think that's going to be fun. See if I can get that to focus. So it's all I would say good things from the shrimp that I ordered from aquahuna, and I would definitely look at them as a source for the future. My hope is that I can mix in some of these Rudolph shrimp to help me control some different types of algaes that my other existing cleanup crew members don't really tend to help out so much with. And I know half of that too is me just figuring out the balance of the aquarium, which, you know, I'm learning. But you know, I've read that these shrimp, these Pinocchio shrimp, are really good at targeting specific types of hair algae. So we'll see if that's true or not. Really, what I'd like is just to make sure I'm keeping them healthy and happy. Sorry about the focusing issues here. I'm definitely an amateur when it comes to taking video. So as far as food, I've been giving them a mixture of a little bit of rapashi, prepared food, and then I've been giving them a little tiny bit of some shrimp pellet here and there, just tiny amounts because they are scavengers, algae wafers here and there, and then I'm just taking out anything that they don't eat. I think this pearl weed in the front is really messing with the focus there, so unfortunate. But so before this gets any longer, that's the shrimp from aquahuna and the right around 1 week update from them. Okay, next up in this hodgepodge video of mine, I referenced in one of my previous videos that I had ordered a colony of Grindal worms, and I got that in from eBay, and I split it into 3 colonies, and I don't know, yeah, you can see just a couple of them there. This is a colony that I have not fed yet, and you can see just a couple of the worms on top. This is a colony that I have refreshed their food, and you can see a little bit of the fish food. I'm just feeding them on fish flake right now. And the concept is, let's see if this one's any better with glare. Wow, I think awful spot. Next time, I promise I'll do a little experiment before I try this on the next one. But this one, you can see one of the worms kind of right there. I had a different suggestion of putting a sponge in the culture. And basically the idea, as it was explained to me, is that the worms will crawl up through the sponge to get the food and be cleaner, clean themselves of dirt. Hey, I finally figured it out. Okay, there we go. And anyway, initially I was a little skeptical that the worms would climb all the way through that sponge to get the food, but you can see it working right here. Now, on these ones, I put a pinch of spirulina flake, and overnight they eat the whole thing gone. So I'll have to put a pinch of spirulina flake on this one, and then tomorrow it'll be gone. And then I've been misting them once a day. And I am hoping that by doing frequent feedings, but not overfeeding to where it gets moldy, I can get this population to take off. So that's the Grindal worm population that I got in. I would always recommend, when you get cultures of things like this, that you split them into multiple bins, because you could start a brand new culture with a very small amount, and then if something goes wrong, you still have a couple. That's what happened with the vinegar eels. I split my culture that I bought into 2 containers. For whatever reason, one of them just failed. But thankfully the other one took off, and now I've been able to make 3 more containers out of that one. So that's Grindal worms. Put some soil in a container. I bought some plexiglass off of Amazon, and you put some food under the plexiglass, keep it moist, and the worms will survive. All right. I've got lids made like this with a hole and a sponge stuck through so that gnats and things stay out of it. And then once I have these colonies up and running to the point where I can harvest them, of course I'll be making a video on what my fish think of them. So just some final thoughts on the Grindal worms as we watch the pea puffers finish off their breakfast of it's a random assortment of some bloodworms and frozen brine shrimp and all kinds of little different things in there for them. With the Grindal worms, I think a lot of people struggle with, from what I've read, with pests in their cultures. We'll see if that happens with mine. But I think it's really important to start with a sterile, culture or substrate, whether you're going to use coconut fiber or just a sponge, or like in my case, I used the Jungle Mix terrarium soil that I've had stored in a box in a sealed bag for months and months and months and months. And I'm not saying that's foolproof either. It very well could turn out that I'll end up with mites or gnats or something. But something to consider and factor in. Use dechlorinated water to mist them and to keep the soil moist. And then, I said that I was using fish flake to feed them, and that certainly, I think will work, but I don't know that that's the cheapest or most efficient thing to feed them. I think I'm gonna try some oats in there, some different foods that might last longer than the fish food has. So just some additional thoughts, and then just make sure you have a tight fitting lid in there so that nothing gets in. So those are the kind of just wrapping up points on the Grindal worm cultures from what I've been able to gather.